So hi everybody and welcome to this edition of Talking Art. My name is Arizona Lowe and with me today we have Tim Longwell and not Tammy Cook. I am so sorry. She is not available today, unfortunately. So Tim, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How is Arizona this evening?
I'm doing a lot better than I was last Tuesday.
That's always a good thing.
Yep. So we're going to talk about your art career some today and some time management tips as well, if we can get there. If we have time to get to the time management tips.
Well, fortunately, my career is shorter talked than it is written. So,
Oh, shucky darn. So you were telling me in the green room, and I find this really fascinating, that you actually started your art career with a wood burner.
yeah, my first art tool was a gift from my parents for the 1967, I think we figured out in the green room, Christmas. It was a wood burning tool. And since my stepdad worked at a lumber yard and both grandfathers were contractors and one architect and cabinet makers and stuff, I had plenty of scrap to practice on, and I actually started drawing more with a wood burner, and I think that's kind of what leaned me towards brushes later down the road.
So do you actually do your drawing then with the brush rather than doing a pencil drawing and then going, you know?
Yeah, if I'm doing a pencil drawing, I'm actually doing a pencil drawing as the art, and it's usually been a request, a commission, or a friend wanted me to draw something out for them or something. As far as like the paintings behind me, all of that was drawn with the brush, with the paint.
That is incredible. Especially, I think you called it octopus, the
Oh
one.
yeah, that one over there, Octopus's bedroom. Yeah,
I can't imagine even trying to do that without drawing it in first.
I actually all the plants and everything. I did the homework, and I some paintings depending on the subject matter. I may do 2 or 3 days of physical research on the web to get in mind the feel I want for it. To, like that one, it started out as my son was whistling Octopus's Garden from the Beatles. And first reaction was, there's got to be a million paintings to Octopus's Garden. A million. And sure enough, there's a lot. Uh, but there were none real life. They were all animation, fantasy. There was no actual renditions of octopus in their natural habitat.
That's really strange. I would have anticipated that there would have been.
I imagine there's more than since I did that painting, but at the time when I was looking for octopus's bedrooms and octopus's garden and stuff like that, if I wanted natural look, it was photographs.
Interesting. So
So
how long have you been painting?
I've been painting since I was 9 years old, and I just turned 56. So
So quite a long time.
I've enjoyed the art of oil painting a very long time. I dabbled in finger painting and watercolors and the usual things you do growing up, as well as the paint by number sets with oils that I started at 9. And those were the ones I took to the most. And those are the ones that I get the best effect out of.
Like the oils, yeah, the color, to me, I always said that working with oils is like pushing color. It's just fabulous.
There's just something about they seem to flow, and I've seen some nice acrylics out there. And I don't bemoan anyone that has the pleasure of acrylics. There's a lot less hassle than oils in a lot of ways. I've used them myself, but for me, it's just, and like I said, it's probably because I've been playing with them off and on since I was 9 years old. So it was just, your first love type thing.
Yeah. Um, so how long have you had an art career? Because I'm sure your art career, so to speak, didn't start at 9.
No, it actually didn't. I actually sold my first painting almost 2.5 years ago now. And it was a case of somebody wanted a piece of painting that I was practicing on. And just prior to that, I had met with a friend of mine that's an artist around the San Antonio area. He did posters for MGM and book covers and different things like that. And he saw I had some of these paintings on a tablet. And he visited here in my hometown one afternoon. He spent the day, a good part of the day actually here. And I sat talking with him through the day, and we just talked about the different types of things about painting techniques and things like that. And he asked if I had any I could show him. And he scolded me after spending Friday and then Saturday with him at the air show later, because this was a Friday, that Saturday. He scolded me for not putting my work out there for people. He told me flat out, he says, quit hiding it under the barrel. Get it out there where it belongs. He says, people need this. He said, they want this. You just been keeping it all to yourself.
And how is the art career going since your first sale?
Well, it was steaming along pretty good. I was doing all right up till about a year ago. And then I had a physical injury that messed up both rotator cuffs. But up till then, it's probably 2 out of every 3 paintings I did was selling. And then I've had to spend most of this past year healing from the surgery on the repairing the rotator cuff on my right arm. And so that kind of therapy and everything. So I used it for marketing mostly.
Yeah.
A little bit of dabbling in paints here and there. So it's spinning back up again this year. I've already been working on a project that's actually going to be on a tombstone when the drawing is done.
Really? Do you got enough of it you can show?
Funny you should ask, because I suspected you just might. Let's see. Now, the last time Arizona saw this, it was sticks and a bridge.
That looks incredible. Just incredible.
You can't see it very well on the camera, I don't think, but I'm slowly darkening in all the leaves. I went through and put the leaves in with 4H and 2H pencils to do the overlays and the layers of the leaves and the trees and everything. Now I'm going back through darkening all the outlines and veins in the leaves. And then talked to the customer today, and they've already paid for the drawing, but they wanted to put off delivery till after the holidays because of different company around this time of year and everything.
It is a beautiful piece. But, okay, so that one's kind of different than the octopus and the other pieces behind you. It appears that you do a lot of Native American themed type stuff.
Yeah, and part of that is I was raised in Oklahoma. I've always been exposed to it in one form or another. I always knew growing up that I was part Apache, but I didn't know about the Indian on my grandmother's side until 2 years ago. No, a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, that there's also Creek Indian from my grandmother's side. So it's kind of in me, I guess is the best way to describe that.
So, okay, so where do you get these ideas from? So, like for the stick game?
The stickball game was actually instituted to prevent the actual wars that were going on between villages and tribes, while the Indians were still pre-relocation of the Trail of Tears. They were still in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Alabama, out through there. And a missionary thought up the game, and it's kind of a cross between lacrosse and rugby, because it's as rough as rugby and requires as much finesse, if not more so, than lacrosse, because lacrosse actually has a bigger basket to throw the ball and catch the ball with.
Okay.
But this ball is actually only about the size of a silver dollar in diameter, maybe a little bit, right around in there. Traditional balls are actually they're leather, just layer upon layer of leather built up.
So are they actually still playing the game?
Yes, they still play it to this day. There's tournaments. The Choctaw Nation has tournaments that it offers the different. Most people aren't aware that in the original areas where there still are the Mississippi Choctaw as an example, there's different districts. Here in Oklahoma, for the Choctaw as an example, there are different districts. Oklahoma has 10 districts, and each district is free to create a team which they compete together against one another in the region area here, and then they go and compete in Mississippi down to a playoff, just like basketball or football, and only it's done with stickball. And their version is a lot of what I have depicted here. Is the Choctaw play with a pole that's really indeterminate length. I think they go by about 60 to 80 feet on average maximum. But the objective with Choctaw stickball is to take that little dollar-sized ball, and you've got a stick. I wish I had a set. I haven't made my set yet, so. But it's actually, the whole thing is probably, the cup is about, let's see if I can get to it if you want to see it there. It's about that big. There we go.
Wow.
There we are. Just that cup area right there. That's about all the size you've got to work with. And remember, the ball is not much smaller than that.
Yeah.
And there's the basket, the stickball is only about 1.5 inches wide on the stickball stick at the basket section. And the back side of it is tight laced leather string. So it's just laying there in that little wooden hoop on those leather thongs, waiting for you, and you hold the two of them together like this, and you throw it. Or you throw it overhanded like that with one hand. You're actually using two sticks in the stickball. And the object with Choctaw games is that you hit that pole with the ball to score.
Oh, so it goes around and around and around until it hits.
No, it's not attached to any string.
Oh.
There's no out of bounds. There's no string. It's not attached to the pole. This is just a loose flying ball. Wow. Just like a baseball, only a lot smaller. And you sitting on the sidelines, you can get run over pretty easy. If you got to be quick moving if you're sitting as a spectator watching a stickball game.
That is incredible. So, did you actually get to go watch a stickball game, and that would be how the series of paintings came about?
Actually, I was asked by the district councilman if I would consider doing a stickball series. And I said, sure, because I had watched the game a few times before. So he says, well, we're having a game this Saturday for our district over here at the stickball grounds. There at the, because here in Wetumpka, they've kind of centralized all of the services for the Choctaws, the medical center, the health center, the playing field, the senior center and such. So I went over there and watched the game, and took some pictures for reference, and came back, and I've got one more to do to finish the series.
That is incredible. And so, are there any of your other images you'd like to speak about that you have hanging behind you?
Well, I guess it depends on which one you want to look at. The one that most people are familiar with is Scott Scowcroft did the Scott treatment to. It's the story just above my shoulder over here is you see the horses on the clouds over there. That's called Horses in Heavens. That one's pretty detailed in the background, is because instead of a broad stroke brush on the background of that one, I did the background in individual brush strokes for that whole background. And that's actually about 4 coats of Prussian blue for the background.
That is incredible. And it's a very, very pretty picture.
And then the one directly over behind me back here is it's a depiction of one of the ceremonies that Native Americans they're basically called Muskegon because it's Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole. That's it. Had to think a minute there. That they're pretty much all the share similarities of their heritage and some of the things they did in their heritage, and that's so that one is kind of special for me because that was another that I'd only seen in the past when I made that painting.
That's really, really interesting.
Got some others I can't talk about too much because they're not here to show you, so I never got a picture of them, unfortunately.
Well, is there anything else you want to tell us about your art career before we delve into time management?
I guess basically it's summed up in what I go by. It's on my business card, and it's kind of my ethos for painting is that I turn dreams, ideas, memories, and photos into works of fine art. I'll do it for anybody that's interested, or I'll just do it for fun.
That sounds awesome. Wow. Okay, well, the time management piece of this show was prompted by Tammy, who's not here. And, you know, she was just in this feeling that she couldn't get anything accomplished. And I think that several, you know, that many of us as artists end up in that position where we're just like frantically running from place to place to place, and it just never seems like we get any one thing accomplished. Can you identify with that, Tim?
Once upon a time, of course, scheduling habits from running my own businesses in the past I probably don't suffer it as bad as other artists do, but I can fall victim to it if I'm not careful.
Yeah. And I fell victim to it with even knowing this trick I'm about to tell you. I fell victim to it with social media, where I spent so much time on social media that my artwork wasn't getting done, or you know, other tasks that I had that needed to get accomplished just wasn't getting accomplished. So social media was a real. I have to now schedule my social media time very carefully. And the trick I gave Tammy was something I started about 10 years ago when I was facing just enormous, gigantic task that I just couldn't even think about starting. And what I did was I started where I would work on it 15 minutes, and that was it. On this big, huge task that I had to get done, I would spend 15 minutes on it, and then I would walk away for the remainder of the hour, and I would go do my social media stuff, or I would go take some photos, or paint a picture, or whatever, whatever other tasks were on my schedule. And then the next hour, I'd go back and tackle that one again for 15 minutes. And it just amazed me at how much you can actually accomplish in 15 minutes worth of time. So what do you think about that idea as a concept, Tim?
And I think it's a very good one, and it's very practical. It not fully the same scenario as time blocking, but it's basically the same principle. We all seem to be, it's just part of our being human, we well structured into time awareness. And we're always thinking about how time got away from us or how we never have enough time. So there are different ways that you can block your time out. And there's little tricks you can learn after that. The Jason Horsch, got to learn to say his name right. He says it Horsch. I need to say that. But he owns the Xanadu Gallery in Arizona, and if you want to share this, I'll share it with our viewers.
Sure, you can do a screen share.
And that's what I'm working on here. Get the right screen. There it is. Okay, there it is. It's up. And if you'll notice, he's and I don't think it'll be a problem with me forwarding this someplace. I'll figure out where we can post it that people can download it.
Okay.
And then, but if you'll notice, the time is laid out here on the side, and then it's the same time block management that people are used to. There's a schedule time, and it's got here at the top. It's got scheduling for shower, getting dressed for the day, eating, and so on. And then this is what I thought is interesting, is and a lot of artists don't do, is studio prep. I never really budgeted in studio prep time as part of my time that even I considered when I was doing a project. It's just something you, as an artist, we don't think about. But every one of us do it. And we spend can spend a lot of time doing it if we're not careful.
That's true. Does he have studio? I can't quite make out the words on it, and that could be because I'm not wearing my glasses. But does he have studio cleaning on there too? Clean up after?
No, but I'm sure based on the way this is laid out, it wouldn't be that hard because he's got a large block here of studio time and then lunch. And I noticed that another thing that was interesting, and this is something that we don't think about as artists either, is he's got a part of the week he suggests a mentoring lunch. Now, whether we choose to be mentored because we feel we need that and we have someone that can mentor us, or if we can spend time mentoring someone else and encouraging their creativity and development, that's something that could block in, and we only get better by teaching others what we do.
Yeah, I think mentoring is incredibly important.
Then he's got in the afternoon, and this up until about 12:30, 1 o'clock, he's got the day mostly studio prep, studio time. It looks like he's giving about an hour for studio prep. Then you go from 8:30 to say 12 with your studio time, whatever projects where your idea come in. If you're using more than one project, you can even break that down into those 15-minute increments you were talking about as needed.
Yeah, well, I know that. Okay, so like for me, my day is a combination of art, the computer time, and housework. I mean, you know, somebody's got to cook dinner and keep the house clean. And it's that housework that I tend to put in 15-minute increments because that's the part I really don't like.
And that makes perfect sense. He also blocks in times during the day for marketing and blog or website on pick a different day for your blog site as opposed to your marketing. And then you could even break up some of that studio time and put some of those house cleaning or necessary chores. The other thing that interestingly he added that I found interesting was we don't really schedule in meetings, whether they be sitting and listening to an HOA, being a guest on an HOA, or maybe a monthly art society meeting. We often forget to schedule those into our time blocks.
That's true. We do.
And then he's got a section where you would spend time processing your email. And that's going to be different for each person on which time of day works best for them. But it ends the day kind of interesting here. The end of your work day, so to speak, as far as studio and marketing and whatever else, plan tomorrow.
Could you say that again, please?
Plan tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. You've got to have some idea of what task you're going to do on the next day.
Well, I know there's times that I'm real bad about. I don't plan tomorrow. I know what I finish the day, what I want to work on tomorrow, but then my schedule is probably not like most artists, in that I've got a lot of time I can self-govern. But he even suggests blocking in time with dinner and friends, and doing a weekly review, maybe getting with a peer group for critique, or maybe it's brand coaching, business coaching, or just a personal coach.
Now,
I really like that in.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the weekly review, because if you're referring to a weekly time review, because I think it's real important to every week take stock of what you accomplished the previous week, and plan for the next week ahead.
And I agree. That's one thing that we tend to forget to do, is we forget to look back. We complain about what we didn't accomplish, but we don't look back and see what we did accomplish, so that we know where we can make the adjustments.
Exactly.
And especially when we know we have this tendency of time management issues, knowing where we created the holes by whatever reason or excuse is going to be beneficial on that weekly review.
It is.
So there were a lot of, the reason I brought that up is I don't follow that schedule exactly, but there were a lot of points in it that I found that were useful to me, that I kind of plug into my own personal way of going about things.
That's really interesting. I am going to, if you can put the link on the Talkin' Art event page, and then I'll go out and have a really close look at it.
And like I said, I was surprised by it, and he based it off of someone else that does blogging and public speaking and all this other stuff, is where he basically got the idea. And being a purveyor of art and dealing with artists constantly, he's familiar with the routine. His father is an artist, and so he was able to easily adapt it to something that we can then adapt to each of us, which is what I thought was really neat about that particular spreadsheet.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting. And on that note about time, we're out of time. So, Tim, thank you very, very much for agreeing to be on our show, the last show of 2014, because we will not do this show again next week. We're going to do it, was it the 2nd, the 3rd of January? Is the next Tuesday, the first Tuesday in January?
First Tuesday in January will be the 6th.
The 6th. Okay, so we'll be back on January 6th. And Tim, thank you again. How can people find you?
They can find me here on Google Plus at Tim Longwell or Longwell Art, or they can find me at longwellart.com.
All right. So thank you very much, and everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays.